Hey there, welcome back to another Sunday Stitches. My name is Lauren and I am the artist and quilter behind Garden Girl Studio. And today I have a stitching tutorial for you. I've had a number of requests for a split stitch tutorial, and today I'm going to show you 2 ways to do a split stitch. This is a great stitch to add to your embroidery stitch toolbox because it's a line stitch that's pretty easy and it has a really nice result. It looks kind of like a blended straight stitch. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to tackle the split stitch. Let's dive in. So to get started, I have 3 strands on my 6-strand floss, and we are going to be stitching each of these lines. I'm going to do the line on the left with the classic split stitch method. So let's check out how that works. I like to come up at the end of one of my lines, wherever I want to be stitching, and you're just going to start by taking a simple straight stitch. I usually like to make it about 1/4 inch or so. And you're going to come right back down. Then, to make this a split stitch, we're actually going to split this first stitch. And we do that by coming up in the second half of the stitch. So you can be anywhere from like midway through the stitch to 3/4 toward the end, just somewhere in the second half of that stitch. You're going to bring your needle up through the strands of that previous stitch. And you can see there, I'm actually part way up through that stitch. Then you're going to continue and make another stitch. Again, you want to be about, the same length as your first stitch. So in this case, about 1/4 inch. And now we need to split it. So we're going to come up in the second half of that stitch. There we go. Again, you can see I'm actually going through those strands, pulling my floss all the way through, and then I'm going to take another regular stitch forward at about the same length to keep everything looking nice, neat, and consistent. We're going to split that previous stitch. And continue stitching. And we're going to keep stitching this until we reach the end of our line. And once you reach the end of your line, you can go ahead and knot off on the back of your project. And you can see here we have a split stitch. It almost looks braided. It's a really pretty stitch. So now I'm going to show you the second way to do a split stitch, and I'm going to show you on this second line. So for the second version of this stitch, this is a split back stitch. So we're going to start the same way by coming up at the end of our line, and we're going to take a simple straight stitch about 1/4 inch. But this time, instead of coming up and immediately splitting our stitch, we're actually going to come up 1 stitch length away, 1/4 inch away. Okay? Now we're going to stitch back to split that previous stitch. So I'm actually going to stitch all the way back, and you can see I am splitting that previous stitch. We're going to pull our needle all the way through the fabric, and we're going to come up again 1 stitch length away. Bring your thread up, and we're going to split the previous stitch. So this time we're splitting from the top of the fabric as opposed to a traditional split stitch where we're splitting from underneath. Just a different technique depending on which method you like. The results are very similar. You're going to get very similar results with both of these stitches. It's just a matter of which one feels a little bit more comfortable to you. So you're going to continue on until you get to the end of the line that you are stitching. And I'm going to split this last stitch just so that it doesn't look as long, so that it looks uniform with the rest of the stitches here. I'm just going to do a little split stitch at the end there. And you can see, so this was our traditional stitch and this was our back split stitch. And they are very, very similar. They're both really pretty. It's just a matter of which one you are more comfortable stitching. The other thing to keep in mind is the traditional stitch uses a lot less thread, whereas the split back stitch does use more thread on the back of the project. So keep that in mind. I mean, it's the same as if you were doing a back stitch. You're going to have a lot more thread because you're overlapping. But if that is an important factor to you when you're figuring out what kind of stitch you want to do, definitely keep that in mind. And now that we've looked at these stitches, let's go ahead and take a peek at how the split stitch can be used in a project. Yay, we did it. We tackled the split stitch. If you love this stitch, be sure to stick around. I've got plenty more embroidery tutorials that I'd love to share with you. So let me know how you plan to use the split stitch in your projects and if there are any more stitch tutorials that you want to see. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you today. Until next time, friends.